As you'll see, we've been joined by the wonderful Frank Turner. This is Frank Turner's first time on camera. Frank?
Hello.
Not ever.
I should say that to my phone.
I was going to say you have to talk into the mic.
Okay, hello. It's not my first time ever, but it's my first time this evening. And it's lovely to see you from 2 meters away.
2 meters, and I should probably
Keep
do that for future.
chair where I can see it.
Beans on toast.
Welcome to the chat show part of the
How are you?
tonight's evening. I'm great. I've always wanted to be on chat show, so
If you had your own chat show, what would it be called?
Beans on Toast presents.
Just toast.
Or maybe Beans.
Just
Either or.
beans. Yeah.
Surely Frank and Beans is a chat show waiting to happen.
Oh yeah.
There we
There
go.
we go.
There
Frank
we
and
go.
Welcome to the first edition of Frank and Beans.
Right, okay, so as you'll see, we have made a incredible replica of the Strummerville Campfire.
It's very warm.
No expense spared was the budget here. Like I said earlier, every Glastonbury, Strummerville have a campfire. It burns all night. Half the people who are in this room work there, perform
This
there.
is kind of punk rock as well, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
Using what you have to make what you want.
Yeah, nailed it. So we will be inviting Billy Bragg to join us for a chat with Frank, with Beans, people with some questions in the chat rooms. And now we're going to welcome into the Strummerville Campfire for some chats. We need to find Billy Bragg in the Zoom room. Tech team, do we have Billy? We've found Billy. We're spotlighting Billy, so you should be able to. This is a bit I'm really nervous about tech-wise.
There he is.
There
There's
he is.
Billy Bragg.
Hello, mate.
And now we need to be able to hear him. Bit of
We
audio.
can't hear you. Oh, he's gone.
Oh, he's gone. Just so you guys know,
That
this,
was Billy Bragg, ladies and gentlemen.
this
I hope
is
you
a really
enjoyed it.
stressful bit for the tech guys, so bear with us.
Yes.
Yes!
Then we can hear you.
We've got Billy Bragg and we can hear him. Right. I'm going to leave it to you guys to steer this chat. You guys and Billy. I'll be here.
I've got an opening question, Bill. Hi.
Frank, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. I mean, considering the fact we're living through the middle of the boring apocalypse. But we were just discussing during your wonderful performance there, your decor behind you. It's very nice.
Yeah, I mean, thank God I've kept my Christmas tree.
That's exactly what I said. I said
So-
someone's dug out the Christmas decorations and put them up.
I love Christmas so much that I never take my Christmas trees down. I just let them sort of kind of wither. So eventually I'm kind of like an enchanted forest of dead Christmas trees.
Amazing.
Well, it looks lovely.
It's lovely.
Basically, I don't know about you guys, man. I know you've both done a lot of online gigs, live online gigs. I need something to convince me I'm not sitting in my office, not sitting in my living room.
Yeah.
If you make it, I've got a backdrop. This is a backdrop. This behind me is a backdrop. As you can see, it's not like a wall. It's a backdrop. I picked up a backdrop. Got these are things that are knocking around here in the house anyway. These tree things. But what it does is when I'm doing a gig, when I'm looking at my iPhone, when I'm usually broadcasting on my iPhone, I can see a fella doing a gig, and I'm with that guy. You know, I'm not looking around me at my office, at my living room. I'm with that guy on the phone there doing a gig, and I find that really, really helps.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it created a new platform. There was a lot of mistakes as well, which shows how important crew are.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
there was a lot of people that were trying, and phones were falling over, and no one could work it out. And it's like, this is why there's someone that isn't the guy playing that's generally there with them, left to their own devices.
We've all looked at each other and thought, I'll see how that person does it. You know, how is this going to work for me? You know, I know my first tentative attempts playing live. I did a little live thing for my, I've got a group of fans called the Shadows, and they have their own private Facebook page. And I thought, I'm going to just try out. So one Saturday afternoon, I hooked up with them for half an hour and we played a few songs. And that kind of worked, and it gave me the confidence to go and do a straight gig. But developing the backdrop and thing, that's really helped me jump forward. And I've got lights as well. And, you know, the thing I haven't worked out to do is how to get a microphone and plug it into my phone, you know, so you get a proper mic. Still singing through the air.
It's more difficult than you'd imagine.
I
Someone
find-
needs to fix that. There's a
I
gap
think
in the market.
my experience has been it's easier just to sing at your phone. If it's just you and a guitar, do you know what I mean? It's like you can.
That's what I've done.
But you can have like 9,000 bits of equipment that all then threaten to break.
The terrible thing is I've got all these bits of equipment from different places, plugged them all in, and it just doesn't sound as good as just singing into your phone.
Second that motion. I think I bought
third.
3 different leads that were this big. I was like, and it didn't work. And also the simplicity of it is, I I think it has created a new platform.
Yeah.
But hopefully gigs obviously gigs will return, and it's not going to replace gigs. But I think forevermore there will be. I hated it. So initially, I was just like, I spent a long time trying not to be the guy playing guitar in his bedroom. And it's like, do you want to be the guy playing guitar in your bedroom for everybody? So I said no.
I think one of the things I would say that I think has been quite good about it in the long run is it's really like very, very precisely highlighted what a difference an actual gig and the gathering and the people coming together makes. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a fair enough stopgap playing to your phone in your bedroom and all the rest of it, but it's like it's very precisely gone, this is what's good about a gig.
Yeah.
Is being in a room and being more than the sum of your parts with the audience around you. And it's not that, all of that is not incidental to the experience of a show. It is the experience of playing a show. And hopefully that means in the long run we can keep it going.
I think also, I'm sure you won't mind me saying this or bringing you into this group, but me, you and Jay, Frank, we're basically buskers and we could do this anywhere. And we've proved that. And not everybody can do that. Not
fair dues. Yeah.
Some artists have found it very, very difficult to kind of do that kind of thing. So it's interesting. It's been an interesting divide I've found. But I think you're right that a gig is there's a communion at gigs that you can't get online.
Exactly.
But I think that once this is over, there'll still be people out there who want to see this and perhaps might even be willing to chip in to see something like this. You know, not all the time, not regular, but, you know, once every 6 months you sort of gather together.
It's a new thing, and why not have a new platform? And if we've got to learn and be better when we come out of the arse end of this.
Yeah.
So.
The question is, how do you do it? Do you do it like a big show and crank out a song?
Oh, and you care, yeah.
What we have now to do a more intimate show, where you kind of, you know, you're a bit more. The first one I did, they put me on in the running order. It was recorded. It was all recorded. But in the running order, they put me on after the headliner at midnight. And so I did the gig as if it was an after show, you know, as if we were sitting around a campfire like you're doing now, and played quiet songs and sort of made it more personal. I find I have to think, when I come to do an online gig like this or something, you know, I have to get my quiff up. You know, I get all my gear up, pump myself up, do my vocal exercises, get my adrenaline up, and take it like it's a gig.
Yeah, I watched that gig that you're talking about, and
yeah.
It's you know, again, like you would a gig, you put your heart and soul into it and make. And I found in a world without anything in my diary, as soon as I agreed, I was like, we're going to do one. It was so exciting in our house.
Yeah.
We put something in the diary. It was like,
Mate,
well, where's the camera going to go? What? You know, it was like, it made the house alive.
I've been doing them every Thursday, and it's the only way that I know what day of the week it is.
Yeah.
Is how far since or towards a show it is. Do you know what I mean? Because otherwise, that's one of the things for me is like I benefit from structure and routine in my life, and that's the thing I've learned over the years. And like having a weekly thing, a few people have messaged me and said, "Oh, it's been really helpful giving me structure." And I'm like, you and me both. Do you know what I mean? I need this too.
I think it's good to have that. I mean, the only time during the lockdown I started to have that sort of feeling of anxiety about it was about the second week. And I started focusing on doing things. I do a Spotify playlist every Wednesday. I try and post a new song, not necessarily a song I've just written, but a song hasn't been released before onto YouTube. You know, so I've got a lot. You know, in the back of my drawer, I've got songs that they're great songs to me, but they've never really had a context for getting released. You know, there's sort of things I did on a down day in the studio or stuff like that. So, and I've written a couple of kids' songs, a couple of things like that. It's been really interesting for me trying to think of interesting things to do, because before all this started, I still had my book writing head on. And I was on that stage where I was going to have to get my album making head back on, thinking about making an album for next year, because now that's all in this year now, so I'm having to work a bit faster. But I've been more busy these last few months. I've been so busy, it reminds me, it's like having an album campaign. Yeah. You know, I'm having to put out content all the time. It's mad. I need a holiday, actually.
Well, I mean, Billy, when I emailed you hoping that you'd agreed to do this, I was over the moon that you came back and said yes, because I could see how busy you were. It's interesting you guys talk about online gigs from the point of view of the performer, but obviously for venues like us that can't actually put on shows, this is something that could potentially turn into be a major part of our future as well as a part of your future. Because if we can find a way to create revenue when we're closed by facilitating really well produced online events that are managed really well, so your customers and your fans have a great experience watching it, and then we can implement a business model hopefully when we open And if we have to do it on reduced capacities and we can't sell to the amounts we want to sell, you create another ticket to watch it at home.
I suppose clawing it back, if you could do a gig where there's some crowd and some digital crowd, then it's about slowly working back into the world.
Try and merge it together.
But it's also
There'll be
about
some people that prefer it. I think my mum prefers the digital gigs. Hi, Mum. I know you're watching.
What else could you do if you were doing a digital gig on the Friday? You could, every day of that week, you could have an hour online with people with ticket holders doing this, just for an hour. You obviously couldn't do it all in a day because you lose your voice, but in the build up to that, it's a different kind of audience, it's a different kind of experience. But I think people are more adjusted to it now. When things like this happen, trends that are slowly moving along suddenly speed up. And I think this might be the whole idea of doing online gigs might suddenly become a thing,
I think it's incredibly exciting.
Some people will be able to do them big productions, and some people will be able to do them at the local village hall.
Yeah, and it not be naff because it's come from a good place.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, it's funny because I always think like the internet collectively as a phenomenon it's a tool. It's like fire. This is not fire. It's like fire in that it can be used for good and for ill. And I think that a lot of the time we all spend a lot of time focusing on the bad parts of the internet and the divisions and social media and blah blah blah. But the good thing is the connectivity of it. And we're all I feel very grateful that if there was a pandemic happening at some point in my life, it's now rather than 10 years ago, and that kind of thing. And I think that if it's a moment in time when we can all collectively grasp hold of the positives of a technology and make it more connective, it's kind of a great leveler in its way. Do you know what I mean? Anybody can set up a live stream or whatever, and indeed anyone watching this feels like they're kind of more in a room with you than they are if you're standing at the end of a 2,000 cap hall or whatever. And I think with everything that's going on, it's like I feel like there's opportunities for change, and it's up to us to make them positive changes.
What I've noticed is that obviously we've created something that hopefully we could help big performers work and give venues work. But I also think there's something really important about being able to give people at home something to engage with and connect with, to be able to give an audience content. And some people, they can't actually come to venues like this to watch shows because of issues with accessibility, access, location. There's many barriers to ordinary fans of music and of any entertainment that actually are restricted to normal events, and this I think is a really positive step to give a much broader audience access.
Well, and also that is an issue that's going to be compounded infinitely in the near future, in the sense that even if we do get back to a place where they have gigs, reduced capacity or not, there are still going to be a lot of people who have, like, let's say, respiratory issues with their or autoimmune diseases or whatever it might be, who are quite possibly looking at a future in which going to a sweaty punk gig is just not a thing they're ever going to be able to do again, or at least certainly not in the next few years. So offering something for those people I think is really important.
And
what are we going to do about the lack of applause, though? There needs to be some kind of...
Jay, let me tell you something. Jay, as you get older, mate, you get used to it. Don't worry about it.
I think...
But it's like, that was the initial thing for me. And I've done a bunch of live stream stuff, a bunch of pre-records, and it feels quite normal. And I can get in the moment. I can feel like I'm doing a gig. I've done some in my daughter's room because she had the nice artwork on her wall. I sat down with a camera and I did like a gig for Greenpeace. I did effectively my Glastonbury gig in my daughter's room at 3 o'clock in the afternoon while she was downstairs. And I could tune into it, but there's the one thing that you just got to presume that people were caring and clapping.
Yeah.
And it feels like if there was something that could sort of fill that void.
Well,
there we go.
Sean McGowan, our mutual friend Sean McGowan, the first live stream I saw him do, he had the sound of some applause on a tape thing down by his feet, and he finished the song and pressed the button, and it was like, "Ray!"
That works.
He does that at his normal gigs, doesn't he, Sean?
What's the famous punk thing where it's like 3 chords, write a song? That famous.
It's from Sniffing Glue, issue 1. It's on the T-shirt. Yeah.
Isn't there just a parallel with turn on a phone, sing a song? You've created something.
It's definitely, but like as we said, it's very easy for people that do what the 3 of us do to be able to set that up and go like, you turn it on.
Yeah.
People will they're not expecting the greatest sound quality, like it's about the songs and it's about the message, so you can do it and get it across. Whereas, a 24-piece funk band.
Yeah, black
obviously
metal
there's
doesn't
levels.
really work.
Yeah, is different.
I think we have to accept that doing an online gig is different from doing a normal gig. You've got to approach it in a different way. You've got to think of what what are you what you're going to put into this to give it value to people. It's not like where you can go on tour and do the relatively the same set every night. I think you've got to really approach it in a different way. You know, you might do one gig where you talk about how you play the songs. You might do another gig where you talk about a particular period or something like that. I think there's much more interesting ways to go at this in a way that engages with the audience, but also engages you.
Tonight, when I play later on, is going to be the first time I repeat any songs since lockdown started.
Yeah. Well,
I've played everything. My God.
We've got some really interesting comments in the chat bar, guys, actually, from people just wanting to put in their thoughts. Someone saying they went to a live gig. Catherine Butler said she went to a live gig on Zoom last Tuesday, where at the end of the song, they got unmuted so they could clap, so people could hear when the audience were clapping. They've said they loved that because it made a big difference for them and the performer. People, again, talking about how good it is to open up to people with accessibility issues who can't come to venues normally. And there's also people that ultimately stop going out, but they still want to experience culture and content, but it's generally put in an environment for young people, so it's broadening ages as well.
I think my initial fear as well was like, why would you watch me sitting in my living room playing my songs when you could go on YouTube and watch Bob Dylan at Newport Folk Festival? But there is something about the live aspect of it that, for whatever reason, still makes people, it's not a live gig, but it still makes you feel alive in it to a certain extent in that.
When you first got to put songs on MySpace for the first time, you had the power to put your own music on the internet. This is almost the early stages of being able to put your own live performances on the internet. Obviously, we're a long way off that being professional.
I don't think it's necessarily the same audience that's going to come and see you live, that's going to come and look at you online. I mean, it's been touched on during the lockdown, but I think there's a huge mental health aspect to what's happened. And anxiety, issues around anxiety. When I was a teenager, I had anxiety issues about going to gigs. I mean, I failed to go with Wiggy to see the Faces, much to my disappointment. I just couldn't hack it. I had serious anxiety issues. And I think there's a lot of people out there who feel that way, you know, so it's providing something different for another audience. And people will still come to our ordinary gigs. People still want the communion of live. But for those people who are not able to, for whatever reason, distance, health, whatever, mental health, I think the online gig's going to be an interesting boom, particularly if they can interact.
Maybe it needs a new name.
Yeah, and stream is not it.
Online gig sounds naff, and it just needs. If you name it, it can be like, oh, you're doing a gig, or you're doing something else, and it can be its own platform. Billy, I'll leave it to you to come up with the name for that.
Billy, I'm going to put if you guys want to carry on talking, I'll say if anyone on the Facebook chat has got a question for Billy Bragg, feel free to fire it on. There's a bit of a delay, so it might take a while for it to come up. But if anyone's got a question on Facebook, please put it up. There's a lot of people thanking all of you guys, by the way, for your music, for your live shows, for everything that you do to help them through lockdown and also their lives in general. There's a lot of amazing comments on here.
It's great. Can I just say it's really great to be able to take part in Grand Aid. For such a great old theatre like the Clapham Grand. I really love it. It's a great space. There's not enough proper gigs in South London anyway, everyone knows that. So to be able to take part in this and support the Grand, it's really some really important theatre. Just the fact that it's still got live stuff on that stage. So many amazing people have walked across that stage in the last 120 years. It's a real privilege for us to still be able to do that. So more power to you, Ollie.
Yeah, big time. And now it's in the hands of a very dear old friend of ours, Ali, who our history is very long. And Ali Wolf, ladies and gentlemen.
Ali Wolf!
We, you know, when we first started playing, I'm not going to go on and on about Nambucca and Van Aid and stuff, maybe in my gig segment, but it's good to know that a beautiful old historic building is in the hands of someone that believes in music and everything that it stands for, and has also, you know, and has adapted in the scenarios to put on an event like this, which can hopefully help save the Grand.
I think it's Billy, when you played here in 2017, I'd been here for a couple of years beforehand, but it was one of the first shows I did of the caliber of artist that you are that played here, and it just gave me an incredible feeling to have an artist of your, I want to say authenticity, but that sounds a little bit like a slightly weird word, but an artist like you playing on this stage.
And stature would do, mate.
Stature is a great word.
Genius.
I'm 5'7".
So just on a personal level, I want to say thank you to you for coming back and doing this show, and for the wonderful words you wrote on your Facebook page talking about the architecture and the history of the building.
I love to think, you know, Dan Leno stood on the stage, you know,
Yeah.
Who walked? You play some old theatres and you go in the dressing room and there's a poster that mentions the Marx Brothers or Chaplin or someone like that. In fact, has anyone ever played that circus in Great Yarmouth? Have anyone ever played that gig? There's a circus, the Hippodrome in Great Yarmouth, and if you go backstage, the walk from the dressing room to the stage, lions and tigers have walked that walk. And it's just an incredible. I played it with Will Varley a couple of years ago. It's an amazing gig, and they've got like a museum behind. I love particularly the old music halls, like the Grand or the
That could
Hackney
also
Empire.
turn into Weatherspoons quite easily.
Yeah.
The way things are going.
We were going to be turned into Weatherspoons in 1997, and they bought it and they owned it for a day, but they bought it without the planning permission they needed to do what they needed to do with it. So they got denied the planning permission, so they then had to sell it because they couldn't do what they wanted to do with it. And thankfully, the current owner, Howard Spooner, took the lease on and has owned it for 20 years since. So we were
I think
that
there's a lot
close.
of places like this that are at a crossroads
Yeah.
at the moment. It's either Spoons or art.
It was a petrol
Basically,
station,
they're
actually.
your
It's a
choices.
petrol station or a Weatherspoons. Or
Wow.
Weatherspoons, yeah, was the two things we could potentially have turned into.
Imagine being the guy whose job it was to knock this down to turn it into a petrol station. I mean, I'd prefer a Spoons.
Billy, there's a question that's come in from a gentleman called Michael. He wants to know local venues in your area that you can recommend to people that you want to shout about.
Oh, I would say in Bridport, where we live, there's the Electric Palace, which is an old cinema that was taken over about 15 years ago and turned into a gig again, which is a really nice gig. We've got an arts centre, which is an old Methodist church in Bridport as well. Down in Lyme Regis, there's the Marine Theatre, which was originally a drill hall, but it's now a gig. I'm going to have to do a few shows to help them out in that area. Because we're a bit in the southwest, we're a bit short of places like the Grand. You have to go to the bigger cities, Bristol, Exeter, Plymouth, to find big theatres. But there is a circuit down there, and there's a lot of great music down there, particularly in Bridport. A lot of musicians in Bridport.
I think that's probably something, actually, thinking about our online gigs we're talking about, that we need to be very careful of if we do embark down that road, is obviously you're then taking people out of physical spaces when they could be in them, especially regionally and locally.
Yeah, people want different things. No one's, like me personally, I'd be at the gig. Give me the option, even if I have to travel, to Bridport.
Even if you had to climb the fence.
Yeah.
Has anyone got any
There's
more
a fence
questions for
around
Billy, by the
Bridport.
way? Any more questions for Billy on the Facebook chat?
I do think, I think a lot of people, right at the beginning of lockdown, I had this sort of image in my head that at the end there'd be this moment where they rang the bells and we'd all run into the street and hug. And, it would just be like, ding, ding, lockdown's over. And obviously it's not going to be like that. But nevertheless, I do think that there is a great hunger out there for live performance.
You should have been in Bournemouth today.
Well,
Ding, ding.
When I lived in West Dorset, it was absolutely rammed. You can understand it. People have been, locked up for a long time.
Same with the raves in Manchester.
Yeah, it's the only thing that's open, the beach at the moment. So you can understand it. It's hard to complain about it. But yeah, it looks like it's over here, I'll tell you.
Guys, this has obviously been amazing.
It's going to go on forever, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're going to do a gig
I've
or
loved
what?
it. Everyone on the internet is loving this conversation, but I am also aware that we've got you guys need to play 2 full sets.
Yeah.
Billy,
And
obviously,
Billy's
you're
got a
going
song.
to sit on the internet and doom forever. Thank you both for taking part in this Strummerville Campfire Chat. It's been the most highbrow Strummerville Campfire Chat I've ever had.
yeah, that's probably true.
Billy, thank you so much.
Listen, if Gaz Mile offers you a cup of tea, don't drink it.
Yeah,
It's not a bit mushroomy, don't drink it.
yeah, right.
The whole weekend.
It's gone.
Billy, this has been amazing. I always hate the bit where people disconnect in Zoom. It's a really weird disconnect. We need to work on
Slam
that.
the laptop down. That's what I do. Slam it down.
Your next song. Sorry,
Wait, I can do it. I know how to do it. I know how to do it. Here we go. Look.
Slam it down. Slam it down.
Wait, no. I know how to do it. Look, watch. Camera drop.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, that was Billy Bragg joining us from his home in Bridport.
Yeah.
Thank you.